according to this article.
What the average woman spends in lipstick?
I don't know the amount that she uses. If you stack those little lipstick tubes, that would be her height.
Have we seen anything?
All right, Linda, David, later. We're doing the no
Happy Christmas, or maybe we want to see you before.
no, maybe not. Maybe I'll come through.
We're lucky there. We're meeting you.
Maybe I'll come through and eat your house again.
Three different
Yeah, I'm sure we'll know where we are.
Sean, you'll have your cell phone on you. I will ping the device.
Nice. Awesome.
All right. I'm on camera. I'm out of here. Is that the blockhead story?
Yeah, that's it.
That was a lot of bouncing around, we know why. Oh, no. Yeah, yes. It was very nice. What is it? Who is it? Can you hold that for a Hey, you. Oh, look at you. I forgot about November.
It's great. It used to be great. So.
When you're out hunting, it's going to be gone.
I told you. I started in fall and then of course you guys together?
It's a good look. Both here, yeah?
That was just stacked.
So how goes the battle? Good.
What's the common breakdown that you have to leave as a union employer or employee?
We're just tired. Shit from my whole house, to be perfectly honest. Plus, we had a 2-year-old son, and I was just like, you know what? I know I can do this. Like, I know I can make money out of my own. And like, even more psychotic, I started the company as a union company right out of the door. So, I don't know. It just felt right. I don't know. I don't really have much. From my old boss.
I would think though that if you had a unionist company, you can literally do a job at 20% below cost.
What do you mean? Like, oh, if I wasn't union?
Yeah, because the guys are like, this is what.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Well, I obviously I might charge you the same. I would just make more money, to be perfectly honest. I might charge you, it would be the same. I would just make more money, to be perfectly honest. I straight up was like, I deserve that money, so these guys, we all do. So there just wasn't really much to it other than that. Oh, right.
What was it? Multiple students are income like
Well, we're trending towards that. No, that's the thing. I also instruct, right? Like I teach. So that's another revenue stream. Plus, she does this. Plus, we're going to be getting into some consulting later. Well, that's the plan.
I just see it.
And then I have a couple other little things that are as well. So I have a bunch of different plans and ideas and goals. So.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I didn't even know but it's not even that fast yet.
No. You have a renter in your place?
Online training very good. Yeah, there's also another one called good luck. I tried to get money out of the I think our actually will have a new set of suspension in the next
Right now, which I understand is so, first, they have to do that. It's called which right now is what? 59 to 60. Yeah. So basically, what you would have been paid out if you were actually retired.
Every time it says, don't do this, remember that there's all security if you do it.
They make it more complicated than it should.
So what is they do? This is a value that goes between 0 and 255, but 3,000 in there. That's typically what we do.
Well, I know. I can't believe the union.
Substantially cheaper than college, right? And the quality is really good too.
It's all political and ego and constant. Well, that's like you say, they want to
I would be on my phone. So I'm just acting as cameras. Before it becomes something.
Go put your coat on a chair in there. That's usually what I do with them.
Yeah, I'm halfway there.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right, well, excuse me, so I just need to look after the streaming stuff here. Okay. You were here, you
No, I can show you where I am if you like.
closest friends drink 550 liters of milk.
Thank you.
Oh,
yes.
so free service.
Her is the
Okay, that's really.
yes. So, remember I told you I
But where?
Oh, sorry, it's
Okay, gotcha. Okay. That's there's the dollar store and the $2 one for my
I don't know.
Okay, so
There's that part, and then just listed that. She well and
he's just, that's just no. Too often we go to shows events like we're leaving much stuff in the ceiling. Renovation gets messy.
What happened is because someone was like, get food.
Oh, lovely.
Throw at the bottom, throw at the top, throw at the bottom. What if you got, like, say, 2 quotes, and then you took the
I've been to quite a few conferences.
and half the difference.
So I've met a lot of people. I wish you well.
Yeah. So say I wanted to get like
Hey, my friend.
that person.
Say the lower guy 250.
Or shall I say it's
Good for the lower guy.
so the lower
Why
guy
though? Why would you pay the extra $50 to the lower guy?
because the lower guy's probably
That doesn't make him a very good businessman. Just as a side note. I know what you're saying.
Well, number 2.
Yeah, that's a great number.
Yeah.
She'll teach you all the tricks of the trade.
Yes, I can already tell. Just
Good. You're growing a mustache.
Number 27. So, just to give you a heads up, if you get it before that, great. Take a look, give me some ideas. If that doesn't work, you're saying like
Oh,
Yeah, you'll get a little help.
In terms of business, how
It just depends on what you're looking for. We do a lot of service and maintenance. So yeah, like
our needs are pretty for the beginning stuff.
yeah, actually,
A lot of lights.
I recently moved to print shop and so I had to replace it. It had single phase three phase. We actually had I installed a radio transformer and like distribution. I'll give him a bill that he can
Good, how are you,
What is that?
You made it last night.
No, we've got
Yes. Probably conservative.
we do a ton of
Well, actually, sorry, I should say, my feet are 100% flat. I don't have any stretch at all. And so, my knees come in. I walk very well, but it doesn't. Like the knees in, there's the hips out. Oh, it's huge. How long you been in that?
me, about 4 months.
Oh, wow.
My partner, I met him more technically he's really good. Like
Where those strengths and weaknesses, if it doesn't have a business or any this means we gotta bring on someone who does. Since I've been doing it for 30 years now.
I'm in the sales.
Oh, okay. Yes. I feel like I've done some.
That is your review.
Here with legal sheet. Low cost.
Looks like
I can't remember the name of the
whatever
company.
he's got. Right inside your yard. Yeah, there's a building there. He lives upstairs. And downstairs he's got
Smiled very happy, like a big smile.
That requires that they chip apart piece by piece. They're gonna have a bakery in there. Market in there.
Interesting business.
Farmers market.
Seems like a
Oh, okay, I graduated.
Right. Okay, fair enough. I didn't actually know it was but I understand.
Well, if it wasn't for HR, I don't know if I completed MBA because I'm more on the type of learner,
Really big for a short while, and I feel like that's dying down. It's just not public as much. I know. Exactly.
Together.
What the office?
She said her name is something. But yeah, we talked.
Just watching the legs. They're switching around.
Yeah, we had a chat. Talk about meeting up and talking about
I didn't actually know that.
The CEO's down. We gotta get but this is we do
Hello. Pleasure to meet you, Jessica. How are you? Good. I'm Dave. Welcome along. The co-founders of the Shindig, as we call it. Yes.
that was funny when she was saying she's such a mom.
Yeah.
And I said,
There you go. That's all work. So what do you do?
so my background is in starting up companies. And so what I want to do is working in HR to help stress out.
Pretty busy. I think that is absolutely needed.
And I have a great understanding of that because I've lived in
No, residential is actually 95% of residential.
Hi, Jessica. I'm Janet.
Commercial service work,
You've been here before.
but excited to be here.
This is Holly.
Yes.
You know what?
Yes, I use them. Myself. Yeah, how are you? Yes. I'm crazy. Yeah, every day. Yeah, but I have to do this though before we get called in there.
It's very close to me, so I thought maybe you were.
Should have brought my glasses.
Unfortunately,
My focus, I want to bring in my passion for
what's that street? You can't compete against our land guys. And they pay for, their insurance is based on.
You went back to school, become a counselor then?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I graduated from
We have lots of ideas.
she was my favorite and then she went on who I want to work with, my brand manager.
Sounds wonderful. Takes a lot of courage.
Lots of money there.
Start out something.
Yeah.
You know, it's never this, and we'll do this. You know, it's,
You're back.
well, absolutely.
The hardwood floor rolls back.
Oh, thank you.
It's like you can't lose it. It's heavy.
Yeah, you notice it. It's not like, oh, it's just a skid.
Yeah.
I've had a third one.
Run away!
Before I did that, I did every networking that I did.
But yeah, no, Judy and I, Chamber, this, oh yeah, right.
I drive.
No, they're very okay about that. That's me and I super very strict with exclusive. Right, sorry. Getting still just been out there much. Okay, good. They're going to drop some new after that. It's funny because so they were going to check that for a fair bit.
But they're talking about taking clients' parking
It's a stupid
yes, but it's really not. Yeah, I was just there.
But then you
I'm gonna say, I'm just gonna
just want some reward.
Okay, you two, right? Get out.
I'm glad I saw
No.
That's all right.
It's better. Better than you need.
Watch right by it, just almost out.
Yeah, we got her some stickers.
The numbers.
having fun.
I don't stay on top of it. Yeah. you got your own.
I've actually going off the last like 3 years. I know. Yeah, very exciting. It's right across the street.
Looks like a good
No, but that's weird. That's why I asked.
Yeah, like that. Yeah.
She normally comes
Yeah, so I'm sales again. Sometimes I'm like, so I've been hijacking some take them and go, okay, but yeah, that's something that I can do. But I don't really know
I didn't realize you had so many things to do. My bad. Good to see you though. Welcome. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly it. So because I'm doing that.
I mean, how
less than
Which I've not tried. I've tried the carb block. So, you know, it's something that I
you did well to get it.
really focused on that. So I kind of struggled with that one a little bit, and now, you know, now that I know it and I've read the ingredients and all that stuff, it's not like Ben or anything like that. You know, so yeah, and then they work out there's always something.
Jesus, right? You used to be in
I don't like, so it's like, in terms of like Facebook and stuff, like, I just like, if you just put it in blush. You're awesome. I feel like I
Yeah, Yeah, like once you were, you know, all on elevators.
It's been a while.
And she's been in it for 6 years. I never. I never did. I thought, oh, okay, that's your job. That's not for me. And then I went through.
That's my, I don't know, it's obsessive compulsive, but that's my way of dealing with stress. I know where, but when I get stressed, I'm not
Say hi on the way in. Good, buddy.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Good evening.
Hi, come on, say hello really loud, all in one go. Hello.
Oh, that was actually not bad.
I should do this every week.
Go on, then.
No, I'm the shy one.
Well,
Yeah, right.
Okay, yeah, see you all now, right? Thanks very much for coming. Welcome to lots of familiar faces, but a very special welcome to some newer faces. Thanks very much for coming along. Just a few notes of housekeeping that we're going to get through in just a second. Before I do that, one difference this evening is we are live streaming the event on the internet. So hello internet, wave to the camera at the back. Hello everyone on the internet, thank you. I'm sure they'll absolutely adore the fact that we all said hello. Okay, so let's, without further ado, clicker works, life is good. As always, we want to say a few huge thank yous. This is our last regular networking meeting of the year. We'll talk about what happens in December in just a second. So a perfect time to acknowledge the support of everyone through the year. By no means do we have any preference for our favorite people here, but certainly near the top of the list has got to be TELUS. TELUS are our corporate sponsors again for this year. Thank you very much to TELUS. And Stephen, as our representative of TELUS, would you like to say a few words?
All right, sure.
Hey,
Not
think
that I
about
put you on the
that.
spot or
Yeah,
anything.
not at all. Not at all.
Not at all.
Not that I have much to do, obviously, with the sponsorship end of it, but personally, I do love coming out to networking events, and meeting Linda and Dave over the past year has been an awesome experience. We've gotten almost like family over the past year. They're actually over at our TELUS pitch event on Monday. Maybe can I mention it?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you guys aren't familiar with TELUS pitch, maybe next year some of you guys can look at it. But basically what it is, it's like a Dragon's Den style competition for small business in frankly all of Canada. So TELUS set up this year was an actual elevator that you go in and do an elevator style pitch. From there, they actually select contestants and they narrowed it down to 3. And the winners were announced on Monday. So I'm sure we'll communicate more as the year rolls out. We're talking about it today, and they're going to be launching it. I think in the next 3 months, they're going to start talking about doing the whole thing over for 2018. So if you have a small business, if you're a disruptor, if you know a disruptor, I mean, by all means, look out for it and apply for it. So that's it.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Did you have to do the elevator?
Do you have
Because
to
they
do
had
it?
it online as well.
was an online-
I figured I was number 3.
Did you go through the
Yeah.
process?
Yeah.
But I was surprised because I wasn't quite sure, because I saw the elevator and I'm like, shoot.
Yes and no. So the elevator, I think, was just set up in Vancouver, a couple locations around Ontario, maybe Eastern Canada, but you can do video submission. I think they did a lot of the elevator pitch for more of some PR stuff because Arlene Dickinson was one of the judges.
Yeah.
But I think actually today, I think I heard there was like 5,000 applications, and 50% of them were actually from Ontario.
It was a lot of money, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was a big investment.
They did, the grant was $100,000, no strings attached. It's just $100,000 to any business, and the two runner-ups had $10,000 each as well. So
it was fantastic. It was a wonderful event.
Did they turn the elevators into condos after?
It's not entirely impossible. Check King Street.
Thank you, Steve.
Excellent, thanks, Steve. So yeah, if you'd like some money, then I highly recommend taking part in this thing next year. It is the largest competition for small businesses in Canada. So do as Sherry does, get your name in there, and see how you do. Absolutely. Always on. We also want to say a big thank you to Adam Smith. Adam is not here this evening, unfortunately, but he has been our event sponsor throughout 2017. So he has certainly been a tremendous support and make sure that we can put on these great events that you guys love to come to, right?
Yes.
That was pathetic. Right. Moving swiftly on, we also want to say a great thank you to our hosts here at the Waterloo Region Small Business Centre. They do a fantastic job of helping many, many small businesses. By all means, check out their website, find out the programs that they offer, and find out how they can help you, because they do a tremendous amount of work. We also want to thank Kirsten Kramer. If anyone is enjoying the tea, quick show of hands who had a nice cup of tea. Then you have Kirsten to thank for the tea. We also want to give a big shout out to Ian, sporting a very nice moustache there. Ian Ingalls is actually the donator of our door prize. So are you going to do that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did it now last time.
That'll kill my slides, but fine. No problem.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So right there.
It's fine. We can do this.
Does everybody have a card in here?
No.
Oh. Are you sure you're not putting two in?
Hey, Mark.
I know you're
Are you
okay.
new?
I'm distracted out there.
With the cake.
So yeah, while we're getting ready here, Ian actually donates our door prize each and every month. So thank you very much, Ian, on behalf of all of us. And let's see who tonight's lucky winner is going to be. Oh, sure, I didn't put my card in, so I'm good. Oh, that one feels good. We have Cheryl Scott from Legal Shield. Congratulations, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Splendid stuff.
Now she'll come back.
See, now we're cooking with gas, right? Going down the list very quickly as well, we want to say a big thank you to Steve Bentley.
Thank you.
You may notice Steve and Linda have a little TV show on Rogers Cable that perhaps you've seen called The Small Business Show. But whenever these guys can find time, you will also find Steve mentoring a number of our SBCN members. So thank you, Steve. And last, but by no means least, all of our community sponsors, but especially Craig Herner, standing there in red, as always, super dependable Craig.
Hashtag Herner.
Hashtag Herner. For those there on the internet, that's hashtag Herner. So Craig and Gary are our two SBCN ambassadors. Gary's smiling face you would have seen when you walked in the door this evening, and Craig also helps to make sure that these events run smoothly. So thank you, chaps. Right. December is a little different. We don't have a traditional networking event in December. We have our Christmas social. This year it is taking place on Monday, December the 4th, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And we actually asked our SBCN members this year what kind of Christmas party they would like. And the majority chose Descendants, which is a brewery. Like how you think. So this year's event will be back at Descendants. We were there in the summer, so for those that were there, you will know where that is. It is a free event for regular members, so if you are a full regular member of the SBCN, you can turn up for free. That doesn't mean that we give you free beer, it doesn't mean that we give you free food. For that, you're on your own, really sorry. For anyone else that would like to come, it's just $10.
And we have the famous SBCN quiz. Show of hands who has ever been in the quiz and
legendary
enjoyed
quiz,
it.
right?
So you get a prize.
Oh, and enjoyed it.
And you get a prize to take away.
I enjoyed it when I was on her daughter's team.
There you go.
But she didn't know the answers.
Sorry, did you say quiz?
No. You've only got till Friday, 6 p.m. this Friday.
Yes.
to actually sign up for it. I don't know whether it's the date, because it's Monday the 4th of December or what, but we need at least, what, 15 to 20
I think so, yes.
Because descendants are really, really firm on making sure we use that space. So if we don't get enough, I guess, people, we will make alternate arrangements with the people who did register so that we still have some fun.
So if you'd like to register,
Linda, how many are registered so far?
17.
17.
And
so get clicking, folks.
So
if you want to come, get
want
clicking.
us to kind of fill the space. We've been there twice before and we've had no problem filling the space.
Yeah.
So we'll give it till Friday at 6 o'clock.
Absolutely.
That would work.
So Linda, if by any chance it doesn't happen, the 17th you change it?
No. If people...
No, that's the only reason I was checking.
Sure.
No, because we've got to work on the quiz and do a lot of upfront work, so basically. But the people who registered, we do have something in mind for those people, so. But who've already registered?
Absolutely.
I think that's it.
Any more questions on the famous Christmas party? And no, I'm not going to tell you what the quiz is about this year, mainly because I have no idea. Okay, then cracking on.
The fun bit.
Yes, we've spoken a lot. Why don't we go around the room, you guys can introduce yourselves. If you wouldn't mind telling us what your name is, what the name of your business is, and being as we're sort of getting toward the end of the year, looking back, what's been one big success that you've had in your business this year? And maybe...
There are a few housekeeping though.
Yes.
Please stick to name of your business and what should be big success, because this is not a platform to sell. I mean, if you go to B&I or the Chamber, it may be a platform. Here it's to get people interested in you, to want to know more about you. Plus, you only have 30 seconds, otherwise my friend here from Toronto will ring his police, ding, 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 and may arrest you.
Some would say harsh. Let's see how this goes.
Everybody's really scared now.
There we go. Okay, so we'll start the ladies first, if you don't mind, Sherry.
Thank you. So, most people here know me. My name is Sherry Copplestone. My business is basically anything you need help with. I'm a connector. So that being said, what's my biggest success? A lot of things. I don't even know where to begin. It's been an amazing year, and I'm looking forward to next year as well.
Congratulations.
Very good. Well, then let's go.
So I'm Kim Wilson. I'm just getting started in my business. I day work as a consultant in a giant corporation, which I'm trying to get out of with my own business. So my biggest success was, so I'm a social marketer, selling environmentally responsible and cruelty-free products. My biggest success so far is making the commitment to do it. Taking the lead.
Very good. All right, well, let's finish off this table when we go to you, Mike.
Hello. My name is Mike Diamond. My business name is Appcast IT Services. And my biggest success of the year is finding out that I almost doubled my revenues since the year before.
Very good.
Very happy.
My name is Gunther Kramer. My company is Gecko Websites, and I would say for this year was being able to take some time out for myself and go and enjoy nature and get away from the business for a change.
Excellent.
Very good.
Yeah, that's super useful. Come on, Nick. Tell us who you are.
My name is Nicholas Alexander Stecco, and my business is Citadel Masonry. Biggest success of this year was recovering from a crippling blow.
Oh, you poor baby.
Yeah.
You're all healed now.
Yeah, so find out later what that was. Roman. Not
Romeo.
My name is Roman Stengel. I don't have a name of a business currently, but I was a consultant for architects and business developers, telling them where they would have ice and snow risks on their building facade that could fall and hit people. So my biggest success this year is actually leaving the business that I ran and leaving it with my business partner. So kind of pushing me into new territory.
That's exciting.
New ventures indeed.
Yes.
All right.
Good evening, my name's Janet Benedict. My company is the Canadian Networker, And I think I'm going to say my biggest success has probably been expanding the Canadian Networker and my women's group into London this year.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Hello everyone, my name is Tara Patterson. I'm just joining all of the network marketing groups, so this is my first big group. I recently was hired with Dominion Lending. I'm a mortgage agent, and my biggest success this year was stepping out of my comfort zone and trying a new career.
Congratulations. I think I've heard of you. now you say that.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Judith Regling. My business is called Regling Business Solutions. And my biggest success of the year is to have made the time, one, to take a vacation, which I haven't had in 5 or 6 years, and take that week off. And I'm going to say a second one is I committed to learning some new software and expanding my business into online accounting systems.
Well done.
Very good. Peter.
Hi, my name's Peter Zoller. I'm the chief pilot of Brussels Business Pilots, and I guess my biggest success is I'm still enjoying being in business for myself.
Not to be underestimated. Craig.
Sure. Craig Herner, Ultimate Vision Web and IT Solutions. I guess my success would be ever since I went 100% on my own in late 2013, each year has just gotten better and better.
Amazing.
Excellent.
Let's go with
Nathan. Nathan Parsons with Verb Electric. Biggest success this year, I would say, is my communication skills. I've gotten much better at communicating with the office and the customers, and just kind of focus the business a little bit more with that. So
easy to underestimate how important that is. Yes, we'll go this way.
So my name is Jessica Sloan. My background is in corporate human resources, and I've taken my background working with people and sort of the stressed out, overworked professional, and I'm starting a counseling practice, really focusing on people being, more present in their lives, and being less stressed. Because it's okay to be busy, but if you're stressed doing it, then, what's the point? And my biggest success of the year is getting clear on who I want to work with and what I want for my clients.
Fabulous. Thank you very much. I see Tori hiding back there.
Hi, my name is Tori, and our company is D1Z Digital. We do digital marketing, and we have grown quite a bit. We started only in May 2015. We've grown our customer base nice and steady, but if I wanted to name a success, I would say building a great team is the biggest success. We've not everybody we sort of tried to work with worked out, but now we have a fantastic team. I think it's the biggest accomplishment because people make all the difference.
Very true. Very true word said. Let's go to Clint.
Hey, Clint Sinding from Elite Training Facility. Great year this year. My greatest success was ending up on TV finally at age 53 with Linda, which is fantastic. But I'm also going to add something else to that, and that was helping a client lose over 100 pounds this year. So great success.
Very good. Thank you.
Hello. Dorothy Sending, Clint's other half from the Elite Training Facility, where I'm actually the registered massage therapist. And I think one of our big successes this year is, well, at the end of the year is going to mark our 5 years in business on our own, which I think when you do it with your significant other is a success on its own.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
So my name is Sakif. I work for Tori, and I work for her, and I help her with her business. I am in marketing too, and I'm also a student at Coastal College, studying marketing. I have a plan, like I'm a blogger, I currently have a plan to have my own business. My biggest success would be networking skill coming to this event.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah.
Hi everybody, Ian Ingalls with Remax Solid Gold in Waterloo. I would say the biggest success of the year was helping my clients navigate through the craziest real estate market in 35 years.
Thought we had an extra presence there.
My name's Holly Parsons with Verve Home, and my biggest success this year, ours was focusing our business and narrowing down our kind of direction.
Excellent. All right, let's go with, I know we heard from Stephen, but I would love to hear your greatest success of the year.
I'm Steve from TELUS, obviously. And, biggest successes of the year, I would say, personally, it's been being very clear on what I want from certain things in my personal life, and also committing what I want to do on my business side of my life. Typically, I'm not going to get too far into it, but typically I've been very disciplined, so this year I made a commitment every single day to be certain disciplined in it, and I've pretty much hit everything. So.
That's amazing. Nice gift.
Okay.
My name is Mark Benkovic. I'm a mortgage agent with Excel Mortgage here in town. It's my second career. I started back in February. I guess my biggest success is going from being a hermit and not having to network to meeting people like yourselves and networking, and having to do things from scratch with new technologies has been exciting.
You're doing a great job there.
Excellent. All right, we'll go around this way.
Okay. Hi, my name's Cheryl Scott. I'm with Legal Shield, and my biggest success this year, I would say, completed the training and got certified so that I can not only help individuals and families, but also offer business solutions to small business owners.
Wayne Scott from Infinity Orthotics Center. Our biggest accomplishment this year is we just signed a lease yesterday for a space that's more than double the size that we have, so we've grown to that point that we need bigger space, and looking forward to great things.
That would do it.
Steve Bentley, Northern River Financial. I'm going to put a plug in here. One of the best successes this year was having the opportunity of doing a television show with Linda. So really had a great time. I got my eye on you. Also, we acquired another business this year, which has been very fruitful for us, and we're exceeding our growth targets already. So we're having a great year.
Fantastic, excellent. So we'll let Sean introduce himself in a moment. But Linda, what has been your biggest success of the year?
Oh gosh, I could say the television show, but I'd be a liar. My biggest success of the year has really been taking more time for me, not travelling too much, not getting sick, and basically saying I come first because my health was beginning to suffer. So, yay! Oh, I have to add, going to Clint for the training and the hot stone massage. If you haven't tried it yet, guys, gals, it's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And working with all you wonderful people, because I love you all.
The brown nosing just keeps going.
Okay, Mr. Cyber Guy, what's your biggest
yeah, so for those that don't know me, I'm Dave Ockwell-Jenner. I actually run a boutique cybersecurity consulting business called Crime Information Security. My biggest success of the year, I would say it's getting to this point in the year without injuring myself or others. I think that's about it. On the professional side, it's probably been working with some truly amazing clients that have been in some pretty dire circumstances, and I'm happy to say they're all still in business. So we must have done something right. All right, brilliant. Let's get going here. We did this.
We did that.
We did that. Remember that? Ignore that. Okay, so for the rest of the evening, we are going to leave you in the capable hands of Detective Shauna Marshall, who has travelled all the way down the 401 from Toronto. And I'm going to just skip over here, like you would never know, and switch the slides over. Let's do this. That one there. Totally professional. There we go, sir.
Smooth.
Thank you very much.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name's Sean. I'm a detective in Toronto, and I would like to say that I don't know how I got pigeonholed as a nerd on the job, but the reality is I know exactly how. It's because I've been interested in computers and technology pretty much my whole life. So I work in the computer cybercrime section, which is a fairly new section. It's only about 3 years old, and we help investigators with the internet component of crime, whatever that is. So there's a lot of detectives in Toronto who've been working for 35 years, and they don't understand how the tweeter works, and they don't want to, so that's where our office comes in to sort of help them through those issues. A quick agenda of what we're going to talk about today. Now, it's difficult in that each one of these could be like a whole day on its own, and I'm going to talk to you guys for about 20 minutes. And there are people in here that are very knowledgeable about this stuff as well, so I'll try not to bore you guys. But I also speak to the lowest common denominator, so hopefully this will be something that everybody can understand. We're going to talk a little bit about ransomware, which you've probably read about in the news. That's something that can take over your computer, cost you money. Business email compromise. When people get into your work email, they can wreak havoc on your business. Website compromise, same thing. If they start taking over your website, that can not only destroy your online reputation, but it can also really hinder your business. Fake check and card not present fraud. That's something, the last case that I dealt with was with a massage therapist, of all things. So that's something that applies to just about any business. Social engineering is my favorite topic, so we'll talk about that at length. And at the very end, I will try and talk about some solutions. Has anyone seen the screen before? Yep. So this is for something called WannaCry. This was online ransomware. So basically, somebody would email you a link and say, here, please check out my attached invoice, for example. And you click on it to check out the invoice, and then all of a sudden you see this screen. And what's happened is your computer has scrambled all of your files. It's used something called encryption, which means it's using like a special password to scramble all of your files completely so that you can't access them anymore. And what you see here is it says your files will be lost on a certain day, so you only have X number of hours to make a decision about what you're going to do. The way that it works is it scrambles all of your files with this special password, and if you took all of the computers in the world, it would take about 7 billion years for them to find the password to it. So the sun's going to burn out in like 5 billion years. So it's not a very viable solution. Instead, what they're asking for is you to pay money. WannaCry, a lot of them were asking for about the equivalent of $300 to unscramble all of your files. As a business owner, this affected a number of different businesses in Toronto, like a dentistry practice, for instance, where they have all of their patient files on computers, and you need them, right? What can you do without them? But even if it's your personal computer at home, if you separate your work life and your personal life really well, and you're at home, you click on the wrong link, all of your family photos could be locked up, for example. So this is why you need to have a plan ahead of time in what you're going to deal with. What you can see here at the bottom is a Bitcoin address. Does anyone here actually deal in Bitcoin? I found the nerds. All right. So Bitcoin is an online payment. There are ATMs in Toronto, for instance, where you can go, you can put money in the ATM, and it'll load Bitcoin into your account. So it's a completely online method of payment. And so you can see that big long string there is the Bitcoin wallet. It's like the account number for that particular Bitcoin thing. And it's saying send $300 worth of Bitcoin to that address, and then they send you the password, and you can unlock your computer. So when we look at that password, for instance, you have to start wondering, how much money did these guys make? And this is an example. So that Bitcoin address that we just showed, you can see it received 19.1 Bitcoin in total. Now these guys will use different Bitcoin addresses for different versions of their software. So they won't just use one Bitcoin address because they're afraid that that's how they're going to get caught. So they can send out 1,000 files, for instance, with one Bitcoin address, and then 1,000 files with a different one. So when you start looking at it, one Bitcoin, as of last week, was worth $9,300. So those 19 Bitcoins is about $180,000. And that's the money that they received. That's not all the people that had their files locked and said, forget this, I'm not paying. That's the money that they actually received. So this is a pretty lucrative business for these guys. Another thing that we deal with, we're going to talk about solutions sort of at the very end because it applies across all the stuff we're talking about. Another thing that we have been dealing with is business email compromise. So for people who are involved in real estate, for instance, this is a really big topic in it right now. So let's say that I'm a bad guy and I can target a lawyer who closes real estate deals, for instance. So you send your money to the lawyer sends the money to the other one. If I can get into his email account, I can send him again like that, please check my invoice, and that'll redirect you to a website where you have to type in your email credentials. Bad guy's got your email credentials. He can then monitor your emails, look at all the emails that you're sending, all the emails that you're receiving, until he sees those keywords he's looking for. Wire transfer. As soon as he sees that you are sending or receiving a wire transfer, he can use your email account to say, by the way, our payment details have changed. Please send it to this address instead. The last one that I dealt with was a charity in Toronto who lost $180,000 because they wired money to China. It's not coming back. So the way that it generally works is you have to make sure that if you get an email, first you want to make sure that it's legit. That when you hover over the links, for instance, you can see at the bottom, this is one that's coming from PayPal, supposedly. And at the bottom, it's asking you to log into a website called confirm-identity.me.ma. Does that sound legit? But how much does it cost to send out an email? To send out 1 million emails. And if 10 people click on it, and that one of those 10 people happens to be a good target, then they can end up with a whole lot of money out of it. So you have to be aware of where if any website asks you to enter your email credentials, then make sure that it's the website that you're actually going to. If it is PayPal, make sure it's paypal.com and not paypal.com.identify.me or something like that, because that's one of the ways that they will obfuscate their email address or their URL so that you actually click on it. Business email compromise is really big business, especially in the Middle East or in Eastern Europe right now. They will actually, instead of just shotgunning out that email, for instance, to like 1 million people, they will actually target specific people. So if you're a lawyer in Toronto that deals with mergers and acquisitions for large corporations, they will target you and try and get into your email address, because then that gives them access to insider information that's going to change the stock price, and they can make money that way. If you are using your email to send credit card data back and forth, they can take your credit card information. So for small businesses here that accept credit cards, you shouldn't be taking it via email because it's not perfectly secure. But they can also really target you through social media. How many people here live their lives on social media? Because you're small businesses, right? You have to reach out, you have to network that way. So if you're somebody who posts, I'm finally taking, some people are talking about taking a vacation for the first time in a while. So on your official Twitter account, if you start saying, I'm finally going away to Tahiti, then somebody can use that information against you by emailing your office and saying, I'm on the way to Tahiti, so suddenly it looks pretty legitimate. I'm on the way to Tahiti, please change the payment details for this wire transfer and send the money to China for me instead. That seems legitimate enough that most people won't actually question it too much, because as people, we have this innate desire to please people and to make them happy, especially if it's your boss. So you want to make sure that everybody is happy, and you want to do things quickly and efficiently, which means a lot of the times you don't ask a lot of questions. This is funny because it's true. When it comes to the person that was flying to Tahiti, for instance, that person wasn't actually targeted that way, but we did have another business in Toronto that was. It was the CEO of a company who had said that he was traveling, it's a pharmaceutical manufacturing company, who said that he was traveling to a trade show in Eastern Europe, and there was an attempted wire transfer compromise that happened. His employees were pretty good because they had a rule in place, and that is, if it comes to a wire transfer, it gets acknowledged verbally, with no exceptions at all, ever. How many people here have their own website? Aside from people that build websites, so. But most of you. So you end up relying on your website for a lot of different reasons. Unfortunately, you can't see that too well, but we all rely on our websites to get the word out about our product. Some people accept orders through their websites and things like that. A website is a huge part of your business, which means it's also a target for the bad guys, right? Because they're going to realize that if you rely on your business, then if they can compromise it, maybe you'll pay them to fix it. Or at the same time, if you have a very popular website with your business, if they hijack it, they can drive business to whatever it is that they're trying to do. Online casinos seems to be a really big thing. Does anyone here have a WordPress site? WordPress is fairly popular, and there were some exploits out there a little while ago that would automatically inject online casino links into WordPress sites. So you have to be careful a number of different ways. One is that your website can get taken over that way. Another is that they can register an alternate domain. So if you are widgets.com, they can register widgets.widgetbeta.com, which sounds relatively similar and relatively the same. And then they can try and redirect traffic to their website. You have to make sure that if your website doesn't expire, that people don't jump on it. There is a fairly famous example of that, of somebody that jumped on Google, that actually managed to re-register the Google website very, very briefly, and then he ended up getting a little bit of money for that as well. If you have a WordPress site, then you just have to be careful and make sure that you're updating everything on a regular basis. This is one of the ways that they will actually work. So if you are trying to buy Windows 7, the bottom one I selected because it's my favorite, 144% off. So they'll actually give you money if you download Windows, right? But you have to be really, really careful. When you look at that, the website associated to it is cfacbeta.byu.eu departments Fulton chair menu. Does that sound like somebody that's going to be selling software? Or is that somebody that's taken over a different website? And they're relying on the online reputation of that website to then be able to sell their pirated version of Windows or whatever it is that they're doing. But the other downside to it, how many people here engage in search engine optimization? If your website is breached, your SEO will plummet. So if your website gets breached in any way, Google will say, we no longer trust this person, and you're going to go from page 1 of the Google search results to page 111 of the Google search results. And how many people here click past page 2? So you have to make sure that you're updating everything that way. Otherwise, your search engine optimization will be for naught, as you're going to get buried in Google search results. This is an example of a website that was breached, and you can see how they built the reputation up over time, going back from February 2013 up until when the breach actually happened towards the end of 2014, and then suddenly, after 2 years, they're right back where they started.
How long would it take to recover from something like that?
It would depend. Google will initially, they will usually automatically block you by saying this website is unsafe. So to get that reversed is actually a process with Google. And then after that, it's the same thing. You have to claw your way back to the top. So we're talking a little bit about solutions. The solutions are, for websites anyway, you should be checking your website every day. Every day at the start of your day, just check your website and make sure that everything is exactly as it's supposed to be. It could be a problem with your host. Your host could have some downtime or something like that. And if that's an issue, then that's something that you can address with your host. But you can also check and make sure that nothing has changed overnight. There's no malicious links or anything like that. At the same time, you can Google your website every day as well to make sure that Google isn't starting to think, like sometimes they get false positives. They say, you know, you can't trust this website. And sometimes they use very complex algorithms to figure that out. Sometimes they get it wrong. So you want to Google your website to make sure that doesn't apply to you. Otherwise, you're going to be losing traffic. Consider, if you have like widgets.com, for instance, consider registering related domains. You don't have to do anything with them. You can have them point to your actual domain, but you could register like widgets.ca and widgets.org and things like that, so that nobody else can try and take that away from you. And last but not least, update your computer and any hosting. WordPress is really good. WordPress will push you to update. It'll remind you as soon as you log into your control panel. It'll tell you what updates are available. And you should be updating those as quickly as you can. But when it comes to updating your computer, you should be doing it on a regular basis. And by regular, I don't mean monthly or annually. I mean, you should be doing it every day, checking for available updates. Bad guys take advantage of what they call zero-day exploitations or zero-day vulnerabilities, which means that it's something that is brand new. It's so brand new, there's no way to counter it yet. Like the antivirus people haven't figured it out. So you have to make sure that you're staying on top of everything. It's all kind of doom and gloom.
So can I ask a quick question?
Shoot.
Do you guys have a preference of what antivirus or malware that you prefer?
Nope, I don't endorse any product or service.
You guys can say that they're all over the place and depending on a particular thing.
That's very true. I mean, even there's a company called Kaspersky, which is based in Russia, that enjoyed a really good reputation until lately when people are accusing it, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, they're accusing it of putting backdoors into their software. access on a computer system. So, but as a rule, there's an actual rule that I'm not allowed to endorse products or services. Well, there's people who won't get it.
Just
yeah.
you can just go to the previous.
Yep.
Yeah, I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Awesome. So another scam that is pretty frequent is card not present scam. So there is an entire industry on the internet for buying credit card data. So all I really need from you is your name and your address, your credit card number, the expiration date, and those 3 digits on the back. And there's a lot of different ways that they can get them. They can hack websites like Target was hacked a little while ago. For instance, obtaining millions and millions of records. But then you can just have like a bad guy who works at the Esso who's taking a picture of the front and back of your card when you're not paying attention. Because those have value. Each one of those sells for, depending on the quality of the card and how much information is available, it sells for about $50 on the dark web. Because then somebody's going to go out and use it to buy like a $1,500 MacBook or something like that. We had an example in Toronto recently of someone who's using a stolen credit card to book a massage. Like they called a massage therapist and said, I have this business, I've got 5 employees, I want to bring them all in for a massage. You can bill me right now, here's my credit card information. So the massage therapist bills all 5 of them. And then they call back and say, you know what, I can't make it, unfortunately. We're not going to be in town like we thought we would. Can you please refund this credit card? And then they gave a different credit card number. And when the massage therapist said, no, like I can't, it's a different credit card, I can't do that, I'll refund the card you gave me. And they said, well, no, then just send me a check. Because what they're doing is they have stolen credit card data and they're trying to monetize it. I have no idea why they picked on massage therapists. There you go. But it happens in any business that takes credit cards as well. So you always have to make sure if you are doing any sort of sales over the phone, if you get like that little weird feeling about it or anything like that, feel free to ask them some follow-up questions.
Can I ask you a question?
Shoot.
It's tangential to that.
Okay.
I run into businesses that take your credit card information on paper, typically on paper, and they keep it on file so that they can charge your business or charge you on a monthly basis or whatever it is for whatever service it happens to be. Yeah. And a lot of times they take your all details, including the card not present number, which is the 3-digit code on the back of your card, on that same piece of paper with the number and your name and other details. Yeah. Is that allowed?
How are they storing it?
It's in the cabinet.
I'd have to check and see, but I'm pretty sure that there's rules about the security that you need to apply when you're storing that sort of stuff. Yeah. If you are storing online, it's called personally identifiable information, and there are very strict rules about how you have to store personally identifiable information online, especially in the United States. They've really cracked down on it there. But when it comes to that, I don't know. I'll be perfectly honest with you.
I think it depends on the volume. I'm not so familiar with it offline. I'm familiar with it online. But online rules are different depending on the volume of the dollar amounts you process. But they also don't think they could ask you for the card not present number. That doesn't sound right.
Well, they need it to do the transaction. But I've read it's not allowed, that they're both on the same sheet of paper. They have to be kept separate.
Okay,
and I'm not sure where that falls, if it's a Canadian law, or is it a PCI compliance thing, or is it in order to accept Visa, you have to follow Visa's rules, and this is one of their rules. I'm not sure where it lies.
It's PCI, so it has to be kept stored. It's a financial thing, it has to be kept stored. It has to be a firewall. They can't be easily accessible because they're on the hook. So if somebody gets it, they legally are liable for somebody getting that information. So it'd be no different than if it's electronic. It has to be so locked down and secure that nobody can get it. And they can't just have it sitting on the desk when they're processing the transactions. It has to be some rules and regulations behind it. Because it's the whole thing that people can finance. So if someone came to my office and stole your files, they can't get access to that. It'd be the same thing for that. It doesn't matter whether you're a massage or a chiropractor. They can't be able to just walk in and take your info.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'll defer to your knowledge on that. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you that way. I can find out for you, but offhand, I don't. Another fraud that happens, and this one is more common to people that are buying and selling things online on websites like Kijiji. I thought it included anyway because it's fairly common. It's called the overpayment scam. So if you are selling something on Kijiji, they will buy it from you for whatever you're asking, usually with very few questions asked, like, I'm interested in your widget, I'll pay full price. Please let me know where I can send the check. And I don't know how many people buy things on Craigslist with checks, but they'll then send you a check for, you know, if you're buying it for $100, they'll send you a check for $500. And then they'll contact you and say, I accidentally sent you too much money. You know what? That was my mistake. So keep 200 and then just Western Union me the other 200. And of course it's a fake check that you're going to be on hook for down the road. But you really can't underestimate people's greed, because as soon as they find out there's more money in it for them, more people fall for that than you can imagine. This is an example of one of the responses for it, where it says they usually find a reason why they can't be there. Often it's because they're overseas, often for work, often with the military as well, because that gives them some sort of extra credibility. It says, you know, if you can let me know the amount. They also will often have a shipper. So they'll say, please, I'll send you the check. My shipper will contact you for the details. And then they'll say, you know what, give the extra $200 and the item to the shipper, and we'll call it even. And then you're out everything once that check bounces. More and more people are falling victim to scams where they're being asked to pay in iTunes cards. The common one is the Canada Revenue Agency, where they've audited you or they've done their GST compliance or something. So you owe $1,800, you have to pay $1,800 of iTunes cards. CRA employees, for people that have been audited, don't really have a sense of humor, but also at the same time, they probably don't play a lot of games from iTunes, so they don't really need those iTunes cards. Anytime you're asked to pay in iTunes cards, it's a scam. Yep.
I was going to say, CBC Marketplace did a piece on that exact CRA scam, and there was a lady in Toronto who actually went and purchased gift cards in the tune of $25,000 and lost $25,000. Incredible.
The best scam that I've seen so far was, I say best because you have to appreciate their creativity in it. I'm going to choose an arbitrary amount, let's say $5,000. So they scam this guy to $5,000 in iTunes cards. They get him to read them over the phone, and then they call him back the next day and say, those cards were no good. You need to do it again. So he goes, buys another $5,000 of iTunes cards, reads them over the phone. They call the next day and said, I thought you were going to buy $5,000 of iTunes cards. He says, I did. I read them over the phone to the guy yesterday. We didn't call you yesterday. That was a scam. You owe us $5,000. He went out and bought another $5,000.
The one that made me laugh is I was out west for a while. Never underestimate the inherent stupidity and greed of people, right? And they overpaid. She was selling a wedding dress, and it was $100, and they gave her a $4,000 money order. Just send us the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm like, anybody in their good conscience, if I'm mailing it to you, I'd probably check the volume, but they still fall for it.
Absolutely. Because all of a sudden, they get dollar signs in their eyes. The CRA fraud doesn't rely on greed so much as fear, because if people who haven't heard the phone calls, they will call and say, we're on our way to come and arrest you right now, which isn't how CRA works. But we're on our way to come and arrest you right now. There's a warrant out for you. This is the docket number at court. You have to pay us right now or you're going to jail.
So why do you think people, is it a certain kind of person who falls for this? Is it a certain age group, or people who don't watch TV or read the news? Why do people keep falling for it?
It's the motivators are fear and greed. So whatever scam they run, it'll appeal to one of those two things. And they're very, very powerful motivators. I'm not entirely sure which one is more powerful. Probably greed. But when it comes to like the CRA fraud, for example, I see everybody fall for it. For some people, they're relatively intelligent people. It's just a momentary lapse of reason because they get afraid.
But the awareness is out there, so are they not taking any notice of that?
You know, the people that I have dealt with, they haven't, it's the first time they've heard of it. It's on the news, it's all over, it's on social media, but, you know, I mean, there's nothing that has, you know, perfect.
But Sean, aren't they showing up at doors too? Like I've seen that, I heard people, credible people tell me they're showing up at the door.
I've heard of that. When I was on the road as a sergeant, we had this guy who was in his early 80s got called, and he was playing along on the phone with them. He was still a very sharp guy, had all his faculties, and but they could tell that he was old. Just his voice, he sounded very old. And they said, like, you know, we want to come and meet you. He says, no, you can't come meet me here. It'd be too suspicious. I don't want to get arrested in front of my family. Meet me at the gas station. So okay, we'll meet him at the gas station. And then he called the police, and he wanted to be there when these guys got arrested. And 3 guys did show up, and they did get arrested for it. So that will happen. For the most part, a lot of these guys are overseas, and they're just working in call centers.
Just on that one case, there was a whole call center in India with hundreds of people on the phone, and there was a raid, and it's amazing what they found and the information they found. Fear, I think, is a big thing. I think also seniors are scammed a little more in that type of thing because they want to believe the person on the phone. And
it's our inherent desire to please people, right?
Do we have another question here? Do you have a question?
Yeah, it wasn't really a question, but just sort of what you were saying. I think they just do it enough, and they only have to get one person for that.
Absolutely.
Because I work in business too, and I see ones that are actually, they just hit the right person at the right time. You know, like that person's really having a conflict with their boss, and as you said, just want to please that person.
Yep,
and,
that's right.
And it hits at the right time, but at home it wouldn't hit because, you know, they're very in charge of their finances. They just have to send it out, and they only need one.
That's very, very true, and that's a really good segue to social engineering. So, thank you. It's almost like we coordinated that ahead of time. Yeah.
I was just reading a couple of weeks ago about how wide of a net this involves, because there's a lot of legitimate companies like the big banks who hire offshore companies to do all kinds of work for them, and these employees, who knows where, have access to all your information.
Yes.
Now, there's probably some rules and some laws in those countries to penalize them if they do something naughty, but what's to prevent them from giving that information to their friends who are not employees? You got the same problem all over again.
And even when it comes to some of the countries these people are operating out of, they don't do a lot to curtail it. When it comes to fraud in Russia, for example, there's an online security analyst named Brian Krebs who has said that the unofficial position in Russia is that they won't prosecute people that are doing fraud in Russia if they don't target Russians. So as long as they're targeting anybody else, anywhere in the world, they don't care.
It's like a honest script.
That's it. When it comes to our desire to please people and to make people happy, one of the people that bears the brunt of that is the customer service rep when you call up on the phone. So for people who have the internet at home, if you have a problem with your internet at home and you call Rogers or Bell or whoever, they want to make you happy because they want to keep your business. If you are getting the internet through Bell, for instance, you're paying $100 a month or whatever it is, they want to make sure that you keep giving them $100 a month for pretty much ever. Social engineering, if you want to hack somebody's computer, like the Target was hacked a little while ago, got all those credit card records, very, very sophisticated. What these guys did was very, very sophisticated using software they had written themselves for the whole thing. They ended up making a whole bunch of money off of it. And your average 16-year-old kid who's living in his parents' basement doesn't have that kind of skill. But what they do have is a phone. So social engineering is where they try and defraud somebody, or they try and gain access to information they're not going to have by preying on that desire for us to make other people happy. So if I call, there's a really good example online of a woman who calls a cell phone provider. And this is done, somebody was interviewing her and she said, okay, who's your cell phone provider? And then she calls the cell phone provider and pretends to be the reporter's wife. And in the background, she's playing a YouTube video that's just a baby crying. So then she starts playing it up, saying, I'm sorry, the baby's crying, and I've got to get this thing dealt with, and I just need to change the password on my account. And then eventually she is actually able to change the password on his cell service, even though she's not actually him. Yep.
One of the real things that people have to be careful with is what they throw in the garbage, because there's lots of guys out there, they call them dumpster divers, and they get personal information from the papers that you throw away, and when they call you, oh, and how's your son so-and-so, I hear he's sick, and stuff like that, it makes it sound like they know you in some way and you fall for it.
Even like with the social media stuff, you know, if you can throw in that tidbit about going to Tahiti, it's instant credibility. And that's all it takes, right? When it comes to social engineering, these guys can be targeting just about anything. Email passwords are a really, really common one. We had a case in Toronto a little while ago where a Rogers employee had posted some stuff on Facebook about what he does, his family and things like that, sort of typical stuff you post on Facebook. Bad guys then call the Rogers help desk, posing as that employee, and they know enough about him, they were able to convince the person to change the email password. And then they tried to blackmail him for about $40,000. That's why two-factor authentication is a really good idea. How many people here have done something on the internet where it says, we need to send a code to your cell phone in order to activate this? Always do that. If you can have two different ways of doing something, like that Rogers employee, for instance, if they said, okay, well, we're just going to text your company cell phone this passcode, let me know when you receive it, then that wouldn't have happened. Google has moved to two-factor authentication for everything. It's led to a bunch of other scams. I'm running out of time, so I won't get into them. But things like Craigslist, for instance, where they'll contact you and say, I'll be happy to buy your item. Just tell me what this code is that you received via email, and then they're using you to do two-factor authentication for them. It's pretty fun. So we'll move on to solutions very, very quickly. The biggest solution that you can do is to back your stuff up. Out-of-band backups, which means you don't want to have a hard drive that's always attached to your computer all the time, but just every so often, like at the end of your workday, just do a little backup of all the stuff that you've done that day. There's software and hardware solutions out there for you that do this very, very well. My wife is completely non-techie at all. So I have a setup for her where whenever she needs to back stuff up, she plugs in an external hard drive, and when it's done, she unplugs it. And that's how simple it is. She doesn't have to touch anything, she doesn't have to click anything. It's the perfect solution for her. If you get ransomware, it doesn't matter because you've got everything backed up, right? You don't have to pay. So it's something that can pay for itself pretty quickly. Because ransomware initially, like on a personal level, was about $300. If they manage to lock up a university, they're charging $30,000. And that's something that can be avoided with $5,000 of hardware. Yeah?
So somebody said that if you were backing up to the cloud,
they can lock the cloud.
But then I got told that too, that if you were already logged in on your computer,
yeah,
those in your root anyways.
Yes, that's correct. And that's why it has to be something that isn't plugged in. So and that includes the cloud as well. So you could remember to, back everything up to the cloud and then log out of that service. There's a lot of online services that do it as well that will back things up to the cloud for you. Depending on the size of your business and how much data you have and stuff like that, you can find solutions for you that way. But you have to back things up, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. And the other thing that you have to do is update your computer. So you don't want to be that person at the bottom left that wants to shut off their computer at the end of the day and it's installing update 1 of 1028, because I've been there before myself. But you need to update whatever software you use. It doesn't matter if it's Apple or if it's Windows or anything like that. You need to update your software constantly. Think of like Adobe Flash. Adobe Flash updates like, I don't know, 3 times a day or something. It's crazy. So you need to stay on top of your updates because that's how they can exploit your computer. So those are the 2 simple solutions for you. Have some sort of backup that is only accessible to you and keep your computer updated. And that's your best solution. And that is it. I realize I've gone a little bit over my time. I tend to do that.
No, you're fine.
So my email address is here. I'm going to stick around afterwards. If you have questions for me, think of questions later on down the road. Don't hesitate to drop me an email. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be Toronto related. I'm just a nerd. Just ask me your questions.
Do you have any more questions? Do you have any more questions?
One thing you have to be very careful with, and they quite often will do that, is they will go to where it's very popular and they will drop a memory stick.
Yes.
And you take the memory stick and you plug it into your computer, you're done. Like dinner.
There was, in Australia, there was a big thing where people were just finding them on their porch. And when you find it on your porch, what's the first thing you do? Oh, I wonder what's on this. Everybody plugs it in, right? And then in that particular case, it was ransomware. So they would just plug it in, and then all of a sudden, oh, my computer's locked.
So after people paid $300 or whatever that was, did they actually decrypt the data or?
Most of the time. So there are some instances where the code that they were using was bad, and they accidentally just destroyed everybody's files. They don't run, like a typical extortion scam is if I have compromising information on you, you give me $500 and I won't tell anybody. So you give me $500. I'm like, this is great. I just need another $200. In this particular case, most of them do pay. Like most of them will if you pay them, most of them will. Some of them too, if you are really, really desperately need your information, you can negotiate with them. They'll usually have like an email address you can respond to and say, I got blocked. This is like the little PIN number that you guys gave me. I don't have $300. And in a lot of cases, these guys will come back because they want something. Like it's better than you just walking away not paying anything. Like, okay, send me $250, send me $200, whatever.
What's yours? The thing about that is a lot of people don't even know they've been scammed. They think that there was actually legitimately something wrong with your computer. Like my stepfather, after my mom passed away, my stepfather was quite computer illiterate, and so he was just feeling his way around. And then I went to help him with his budget one day, and I see a $300 charge on his credit card, and I said, "What is that for?" And he said, "Oh, there was something wrong with my computer."
Microsoft
and I called them,
yeah.
and they fixed it. He said, "But I had to give them my credit card over the phone." And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? You were scammed. There's nothing wrong with your computer."
Well, what I'd like to say is we can't thank you enough for coming in and entertaining us. But we've got quite a few IT guys in the room tonight. So you know where to go if anything does go wrong. But I think we've learned an awful lot from you. And you said greed is one of the biggest things that people really are clicking on things if it's free, if they're being offered money. So I'd like to thank you. If that's okay with you. Where would you like us?
That's fine.
Is this good?
There you go.
Oh, it's difficult to get the mic from
Just a little bit. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and by the way, we did a podcast quite some time ago, didn't we?
We did, yeah, that was back in
Was it in April? So
yeah.
you can listen to the podcast for a refresher. This live stream should be online within the next few days, so you can listen to it again. Any comments from our other guy in the room who knows a little bit about this?
Any comments? One, I have an answer for you, Mike, which we can talk about later. But yeah, the appropriate regulation would be PCI DSS, and no writing things down on a piece of paper is not allowed beyond the period of time that you need to process the transaction.
I just want to clarify, I actually kind of knew the answer.
There we go.
Some
Oh,
areas
sure.
I was asking the
Show
question
off.
for everyone else's benefit.
Yes.
It's a good question.
A lot of people do that. A lot of businesses do that. It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah, and as a consumer, I come across that quite frequently. Businesses saying, "Can you just give me my credit card details?" I'm like, no, we're not going to be doing business. The only other thing I would add on, I've actually just spent the last 2 days at a cybersecurity conference in Toronto, so I've been hanging out with about 2,500 of my closest hacker friends. Interesting statistic that came out of there, the vast majority of cyber attacks are against small businesses in Canada. I think the figure they gave out was something like 61% of all cyber attacks in Canada are against small business. So if you guys as small business owners think, oh hell, this is just a thing that big companies have to worry about. Well, they have to worry about it too, but they typically have bigger checkbooks than you do. So when something does happen, you know, they just throw money at it and the problem goes away. For us in small business, that can be a little bit more devastating. Not to, you know, try and do the fear thing, but it can be pretty tricky. So I would say, just to echo on some of the points from Sean here, a bit of preparation saves you a ton of money when things do go wrong. I could say, you know, firsthand, having seen exactly how badly that can go wrong, please do that. It's really, really great. Don't call me ever. If you need to call me, you did it wrong.
I've got a really good one, something really simple, because I'm all about simplicity. And Dave says I'm a really good social engineer, don't you?
You are a spectacular social engineer.
I do it, but I don't want to be in that line of work. But Facebook, show of hands who uses Facebook. Okay? I don't know how many times I have to share on Facebook that the $50 that the organisations not so much see as they're going out, you know, but there are so many things like that on Facebook. Oh look, you all pass it on to each other, and then I just go and Google and go, this is not true, and share it, and then basically, I'm trying to help you so we can all be aware. If it's too good to be true, on Facebook in particular, and somebody's giving you something for free, please look into it. Or come to me or Sean or Dave or somebody you know, because so many people are getting caught.
And report it. I'm the queen. If you have a second profile coming to me or you got an ad up that's fake, I'm a reporter.
The thing is, people are like sheep, let's admit it. And like Sean said, if it's greed, someone's going to give $50. But from tonight, please don't do it because it's really not worth the hassle and it involves everybody else. Just one little, question, that's all it is. It's simple. These guys are the clever ones. And then if Dave's not around and Sean's not around, I'll bug you, I bug all the IT guys and I say, is this real? So you can do that too. We know enough people, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think this has been one of the really most interesting and thought-provoking seminars we've had for a long time.
You could do, on this particular topic, you could do it every night for a year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So it is about 25 minutes to 9. We are in the building here until about 5 minutes to 9. So by all means, use this time to ask some questions if you have anything that's popped up.
That one might be good for the group.
Sure. Go ahead.
Desktop, laptops, etc. What about this?
Oh, what about this?
Steve knows my thoughts on this.
Like seriously, up until now with BlackBerry, so I didn't have to worry, I only ever touched it. But now
you think.
Yes.
But it's the same. You need to be, you can back up your phone. So you need to be backing up your phone on a regular basis. You need to update your phone's, the software behind it, and your applications on your phone on a regular basis. And the last one is to stick to applications from the Apple Store or from Google Play and things like that. When you start downloading applications from third parties, you're just opening yourself up in trouble.
I mean, I look at it and simple, right? We used to worry about locking our front door or our car door so we can get broken into. But sometimes, we don't even think about having a password or whatever on our phone. So we'll just take it back to the olden days. What do we used to do in those days? So,
one question over here. Wait.
Sorry, actually just say, I use Bitdefender for all my computers at work at home, but you can buy multi-licenses, so, and you can actually use it on your phone too. So Cheryl and I both have it on our phones, home computers, work computers, everything's covered, and it says it's one of the only ones that covers against ransomware.
Really? Well, that is good to know.
Really good and very reasonably priced.
The only advice I would give is myself and all the other security professionals that I know use Apple iPhones, and that is not completely by chance.
Now, I've got to do some housekeeping, so please stay, get to know new people, get to know the people you already know. I think there's some coffee and water left.
There
And
is.
there's plenty of cake. I don't know why we've got such a big cake.
Yes, please help us eat the cake. We are celebrating 14 years. That doesn't mean we have 14 years to eat the cake that we
But you know
bought.
what the most important thing is? Where are we going after this meeting?
I don't know that. Where are we going? Yes, it has been rumoured that we are in fact a bunch of alcoholics with a networking problem. So to quench that thirst, quite literally, we will be going to Abe Herb over at the Tannery area. All are welcome to join us. There is very little talk about business, lots of poking fun at one another, but especially at Steve and Linda. So if you would like to come see that, we will be over there probably just shortly after 9 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your attention. Enjoy the rest of the meeting. That's right.
A lot of people like
for many other reasons. No. Share.
Three of them.
See you later.
I was actually
luck in the business.
Well, now we have it different because they started to business manager, so well, but then we manage it business what happened is that I did the investment, but then sold to Secrets, and I was second target what is the bank will go to President's check this week, this week their agency, they took back the business. They are awesome. So basically, the same as it was nice talking to you. Scary. Investigation. I feel like maybe I should have been a cop. I think I was a cop.
Social media.
He's okay with sharing his presentation.
I heard.
Can you forward that on?
I can forward that on.
A discussion about this. A lot of stuff there that is potential.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, I will move forward.
Especially with the multi-media.
Yeah. I've seen, especially those business email compliance. I've seen those go really, really well.
It's funny, last summer, my broker, Bass, got an email. Came from, he thought it came from the lawyer assistant.
Over there. I knew that.
I forget why Bass didn't respond. But it had some information that tweaked his memory. It's like, why are you asking for this? I just sent it to you.
It's really hard.
Build rapport. We know that we're not accept this every email. Here's a letterhead signed by the CEO. Blah, blah, blah. The only thing that gave it away was the letterhead
One thing at a time.
I saw an example of somebody just forging documents, basically. And I'm looking at it, I'm just training it. It was like, we ask people to confirm income several different ways, so we have to see our right notice of assessment. So it's like somebody literally cut it and put it back together, but they didn't do it straight. Or the photocopy, they give you the lines. And if you had like Adobe, the full version, you could probably unlayer it. I was watching a video years ago about somebody who broke apart, you know that birth certificate fiasco of Obama? Yes. It's never proven he was a legit citizen or not, but one guy took it and was supposedly legitimate certificate. And in the format they said they unlayered it everything at a time to show that that particular document was so many other ones. I remember I bought a As you can, but when they get into some 20-year-old so I looked at it, I said, I just think it's just extremely non-sustainable. But instead of sending a technician out, they told us in the engineer, they sent a third-party company out. They used a salesperson to sell her a whole new system, and they didn't even let it all in. It was the family. My son worked for a place, they replaced it for 180 pallets. This guy showed to make
Easily done. Easily done.
other companies are selling the whole system for 2 or 3 grand, or more instead of 1. And that's nothing to do with technology. So Apple iPhone.
Yeah, I have a whole, the streaming solution is all Apple products. So you can connect them together, use your phones as cameras, basically. So you can have, this is what's going out online to the internet. And you can flick, I can see the screen of the computer in there. I can see the room in there.
So you have different cameras set up?
Yeah, so I actually have multiple cameras set up. So you have one there. And even if you bring pictures, but it's a great little solution.
What's this little?
So this is just my iPad. You can do all this just on a phone. You don't need even multiple. You can just do it on one phone. So you have one phone. And it's a service you subscribe to every month. So there's a monthly fee for it. But then you can stream to YouTube, to Facebook, wherever you want to do. And it'll even record it. So you've then got a recording of that session for later on. Yeah, it's really neat. I like it a lot.
I have a 6-year-old laptop that's probably slowed down because of who knows what. So if I was to buy a new laptop,
Actually, a deep cut sitting right in front of us. You got PC or Mac?
well, so far PC.
You know, I think there's not a great deal to pick between them these days. You know, so I would have picked the cheapest, I certainly would have picked the most expensive.
The biggest change I've seen is the SSD, the circuit card, warranty says
instead of having to spinning hard drive, yeah, and that makes a huge difference. I mean, I even had a PC for years old, I talked to this one guy, he's like, alright, that'll keep me going for another couple of hours. Yeah, I would think I would. So I talked to this one guy, pretty good paperwork. I've had good luck with them, but I haven't had very good luck with HP. So you're going to be I've had decent experience with them. You're going to have, I mean, potentially, you're not going to be able to do anything. Might go to it. Look at that.
There's a girl in my group
Well, if you consider it work, you're in the wrong most people, I mean, they spend more time with their friends and family and their own children, right? So, no matter what you're doing, you better get to this company you're working with. More people
that's when you plan your, you know, your stress social media, you will
all lined up.
So are you the one behind the man? Because that's how it normally works. I mean, Dave's not there, it's still me. So, don't think that price to be taken. How many moves does it take to set it up?
Yeah, they want to bring two.
I said no so many Okay, so we hope to see you here.
We're still getting some stuff in Turkey. We're worried about working it off and getting it I'm noticing with the larger clients too, they're saying that business is picking up as well, so I think this whole recession thing is going to slowly die off.
Somebody else is it was
you know where we are when you're ready. It's when you're ready.
It's going to work out, actually.
They celebrated 30 years.
That's what I
It's not 30 years ago.
This is how big this is.
Now they have big party going on. So they're doing the martial arts stuff, and performances and so on. It's really cool.
You know what? That short tenure
working on getting all that sorted out. Family stuff and getting family over here, there's family over there, relatives and everything else right there.
Yeah, see, I was at Brunswick. I was so shy. But I like social, so I tried to get out.
Not that bad, but sometimes it's really
You're so close.
Crap in your face all day.
Everybody seems tired of hearing it.
until something happens.
For myself, I just feel like and I think like in maybe 1,000, I try to force one.
But now we've got an entire
There's other technology out there.